Hi there. So, because we weren't able to finish the story from Guys Read Funny Business, the story Kid Appeal by David Lubar, I decided I would just send it to you this way. So, I'm going to sit back and enjoy my cup of hot chocolate on this snowy afternoon, and I hope you can put yourself in the same kind of situation, sit back and relax and enjoy the ending of the story. So, think back to the story. We have a main character whose name is not mentioned, and his best friend, Dwight, who is not very bright, but he's good with his hands, and he's a loyal friend. They have entered into a contest to celebrate the history of their town, New Cairo, because the grand prize is 2 tickets to the new water park, Splash-tastic. Their main competition is Zeke Walter, who is a bully. They have thought for a week about how to win the contest and decided to appeal to a judge. The 3 judges are people who own businesses in town. One is a butcher, one owns a chocolate shop, and one has a sporting goods store. They settled on appealing to the chocolate shop owner by creating a replica of the first settler's cabin out of chocolate bars. Unfortunately, it melted overnight because our main character's parents can't control their thermostat. So here it is, the day of the contest. A main character just resigned to the idea of being wrapped like a mummy. And he said, yeah, it might be kind of cool to stagger around school like a mummy. So here we go. Come on, Dwight said. Let's find some sheets. I was glad that Mom had already left for work. I figured she'd have a problem with Dwight and me cutting up her sheets, but if I won a contest, she'd be so shocked I was betting she'd forgive me. I didn't exactly have a lot of victories in my past. That became real obvious last year when Mom decided to make one of those scrapbooks where you brag all about the stuff your family has done. After a couple of days of finding nothing to scrap about, she gave up and decided it would be more fun to make flower pots. I went to the closet in the upstairs hallway where Mom kept the sheets, towels, and blankets. They're green, Dwight said as he leaned over my shoulder. Yeah, that's not gonna work. It looked like we were losers for sure. Mummies get old, right? So we could say it's moldy. That's completely stupid, I thought as hard as I could, and actually came up with a solution. Hey, I know, we could paint them. Got any paint? I'm not sure. I started looking through all the closets in the house. Finally, I found a shelf in the bathroom. Under the bathroom counter with first aid stuff. Bandages! I shouted when I saw the boxes. My mom didn't just buy food at the warehouse store. We had big boxes of everything, from garbage bags to detergent, so we had plenty of bandages. Each box had something ridiculous, like 200 yards. We don't need sheets. We have real bandages. I dragged a box from the shelf and handed it to Dwight. Wrap me up. Dwight opened the box. He stared at the bandages for a moment, then stared at me. I think you need to take off your shirt and pants. Why? It'll look weird if you have clothes on under the bandages. Come on, take them off. I don't think so. You have to. We're going to be late. Okay, but I'm keeping my underwear. I pulled off my shirt and dropped my pants. Dwight had trouble getting the first part of the bandage roll off the roll, but once he got started, he wrapped me real quickly. After he finished my right leg, he said, "This stuff is great. Oh, this stuff is hard to tear. Got scissors? No time for that. Just do it in one piece." Sure, there's plenty. Dwight left slits for my eyes and nose, but he taped over my mouth. He ended up using the whole box. Mom wouldn't miss it. There were several more boxes of bandages on the shelf. Before we left, Dwight grabbed another box, just in case we need to patch you up or anything. We headed out. I walked like a mummy, which was pretty easy since the bandages made it hard to bend any of my joints. I had to admit, I was starting to feel like we could actually win the contest. Halfway down the block, Dwight handed me an extra box of bandages. Here, hold this so I can get a good shot of you. I took the box, and Dwight held up the video camera. Then he took his right hand off it and rubbed his thumb against his fingers. Man, this stuff is really sticky. Sticky? I glanced down at the box through the slits. According to the label, they were Stay Stuck brand adhesive bandages. Adhesive? Below, a bit smaller, it read, with super holding power that never lets go. And below that, even smaller, caution, remove slowly. I thought about what it felt like when I ripped even a small Band-Aid off my arm. "You idiot!" I screamed at Dwight. It didn't come out as any real words since my lips were taped over. I threw the box at him. He ducked. "Hey, watch out, you'll hit the camera." I tugged at the end of the bandage, where it dangled from my hand. "It's all stuck to me." I gave him a shove. "Knock it off," he shoved back. "Dummy mummy." I staggered back and stepped off the curb, which made me stagger a couple more steps on stiff legs. A car whizzed towards me. I looked right at the driver. He looked right at his cell phone. I'm going to die. I tried to spin out of the way. Luckily, I didn't get hit. The car just nicked my finger as it shot past. I'm going to live. Before I could sigh in relief, I was yanked off my feet. I'm flying? The rear bumper had snagged the end of the bandage from the tip of my finger. I guess the driver was still on the phone because he didn't seem to realize he was pulling me down the road. I managed to stay on my feet, but I felt like I was water skiing. I yanked my hand back. Hard. That worked. The bandage started to unwind. My relief didn't last more than a second, though. After my arm got unwrapped, my body started to unwind. That made me spin. I was having a hard time staying on my feet. Everything was happening too fast. I was spinning, staggering, skittering across the hard asphalt. Oh yeah, and screaming, especially when the unwinding reached my head and I felt my eyebrows get ripped off. The bandage reached my left leg. I had to lift it in the air as it unwound, or my other leg would get tangled and I'd fall down for sure. I was balancing on one foot now. I could smell burning rubber as my sneakers started to melt. When the bandage reached my other leg, I realized I had an even bigger problem. The car made a right turn. The bandage pulled around the streetlight on the corner. I was getting yanked toward the pole. A lucky leap kept me from smacking right into it, but I was whipped around the corner and flung through the air. Now I was really flying. Finally, the end of the bandage was yanked from my leg, taking my sneaker with it. I sailed across the street and thudded to a face-down landing. I was too dizzy to move. I hurt all over. And, from the smell of it, I'd landed in the yard of someone who owned several enormous dogs. Which helped explain why I slid so far after I hit. But at least I'd survived. Dwight caught up with me, still carrying the camera. "Oh no," he gasped. "What?" Nothing." His voice sounded weird, and his face got green as Mom's sheets. "Tell me." "I guess the adhesive kind of took a tiny bit of skin with it." "And my shorts," I discovered as I glanced over my shoulder. They were gone. Ripped right off me. They'd saved my skin. At least a little bit of skin where the shorts had been. As for the rest of me, above my waist and below my thighs, my body looked as if I'd been peeled. It took a moment for the fact to sink into my numbed and dizzy brain. I stared at my hands and down at my arms and legs. I'd been peeled like an apple. No, more like a tomato. I looked like I had the worst case of sunburn the world had ever seen. The whole top layer of my skin was gone. It was a thin layer, but I'd been kind of attached to it. Then the pain kicked in. That's when I passed out. I woke up in the hospital. It was Saturday. I was covered in real bandages this time. My parents were so happy I was alive they didn't yell at me too much. Dwight came in to visit me that afternoon. "How are you doing?" he asked. "How does it look like I'm doing?" "Looks really cool. Too bad it's nowhere near Halloween." I sighed. I guess Zeke won. "No way, check this out." He held up the video camera and started playing a clip. I saw the title on the screen. "New Cairo, From Mummies to Medicine, 150 Years in 150 Seconds. Then I saw myself walking along in my original mummy outfit. I winced as I watched my unwinding body spin and tumble like a really bad gymnast's. I cringed as the camera zoomed in on my peeled body in the middle of all that red flesh. My white butt, looking like a blob of mayonnaise on a boiled hot dog. My own screams were replaced by those of sirens, and the paramedics showed up. Dwight had recorded the whole trip to the emergency room, and all the action of the doctors and nurses working on my damaged body. Then he'd edited everything down to the highlights. "You showed this at school? I couldn't believe all the kids had seen me sprawled out on the ground, barer than naked. I'd have to move to another town. No, another planet. Even that might not be far enough. Everyone saw it?" "Yeah, sure. Nobody else did a video, so they let me play it on the big screen in the auditorium." "And the judges liked it?" "Well, the chocolate lady and the sports guy both threw up and ran out of the room right after you got peeled. But the butcher loved the whole thing. So, like you said, we appealed to one judge." Dwight paused, frowned, and then said, "Wait, peeled, appealed. I think there's some kind of connection." "Drop it," I said. "What happened after that?" "Since the butcher was the only one left to vote, we won first prize. I'm going to Splashtastic Park, and here's your half of the bet." He put a $20 bill on my chest. I looked down at the money, thought about his words. "I'm going to Splashtastic Park." "You mean we're going to Splashtastic Park?" "You really want to wade in salt water next week?" Dwight asked. I imagined how that might feel on my peeled body. It would definitely sting. I guess not. That's what I thought. So I asked Zeke. "Zeke!" I bolted up. That was a huge mistake. I felt like someone had just swiped my whole body with an enormous piece of sandpaper. I let out a scream and slumped back down. "Yeah, Zeke," Dwight said. "I've been thinking about things, and even if you got out of here in time, I'm pretty sure it's a better idea if I go to Splashtastic Park with someone smarter. You'd probably get us kicked out in 5 minutes after we got there. No offense. You're a good friend and all. You're loyal. You're courageous. But you have to admit, you're sort of an idiot." I opened my mouth to argue. "No, Dwight, you're the idiot." Then I closed my mouth. What could I say? Dwight was right. He was going to Splashtastic Park. He was a winner. He had all his skin. I was the kid who let someone cover him in bandages and walk him down the street. I was an idiot. A skinless, bandaged idiot. "Well, I'd like to hang around," Dwight said. "But Zeke won a couple of movie tickets for second place, and he's sharing them with me. The show's starting soon. I gotta go." He headed out. I stayed where I was, skinless, friendless, prizeless. Well, it could be worse. At least I'd have a lot of scabs to pick soon. I wondered whether I could grind them up and sell them for medicine. Then I could start my own town. I guess I could call it Stupidville. Okay. Well, that's the end of the little story here, and you'll have a fun time listening to it, I hope. And I've had a fun time listening to you read, and I hope you find a book like this one to read sometime. You know, funny stories, because reading should be fun.